UFC Fight Night Kansas City, Holloway versus Allen just took place, and I'm going to go through the entire card, starting with the early prelims, ending with the main event, giving my reaction and breakdown to every single fight on the card, and my overall event recap as well. Let's start straight away with the early prelim opener of Joselyne Edwards versus Lucie Pudilova. Nothing to see here, just a regular great decision from the UFC. My coin has spoken. I did a coin flip for every female fight on this card, and I went 2-1, okay? Which is very good, and I'll be using that tactic more often. And Joselyne Edwards got it done. Lucie Pudilova thought she could do enough, okay? She may have done enough, but the coin had spoken, and regardless whether or not you think Lucie Pudilova won the fight or not, she just didn't do enough to go against the power of the coin flip, which made me pick Joselyne Edwards. However, in rounds 1 and 3, first of all, if you look at the stats, it seems like Edwards wins, is all I'm going to say, okay? Just gonna, you know what I'm saying, there's, maybe like a control time here and there for Lucie Pudilova, whatever, you know what I'm saying? But Joselyne Edwards landed 17-18 on significant strikes in round 1, 27-19 on significant strikes in round 3, and 90-74 on total strikes throughout the fight. Control time don't win fights. I'm sorry. It was probably a bad decision, but the coin has spoken, okay? And the coin was enough to sway the judges. Even still, I'm using that coin more often. We move on to another fight up the card. Gaston Bolanos versus Phillips. I went with Gaston Bolanos. I thought his stand-up would be the difference in this fight. I thought he was much better on the feet than Phillips, and Phillips isn't much of a grappler too effectively, so I kind of knew that Gaston would win this fight, even though it was very close in odds. Gaston got it done. Better striking in the first and second and third round. Like, Phillips had moments where he was on top, and I'm not entirely speaking about the Edwards versus Lucie Pudilova fight, but for this fight especially, DC and Bisping were trying to make it out like this was close. Phillips just straight up wasn't doing damage. I think DC is having a real problem getting over the fact that wrestling without damage means nothing anymore. And as a wrestler, he loves seeing a guy get a takedown and just says, this is good. It doesn't mean anything if you're not doing damage. Gaston Bolanos out-damaged him in round 1, out-damaged him in round 2, even though he got his back taken and was on the floor for a bit in certain moments, but was able to reverse and land a good flurry at the end of the round. Round 3, he did all of the damage. 16-2 on significant strikes in round 3, 25-5 in round 2, 22-10 in round 1. It's weird they were even considering this close. We move on, up the card, to Denise Gomez versus Bruna Brasil. Denise Gomez got it done. The coin flip was wrong. Bruna Brasil looked terrible. I'm just going to say it how it is, like how I saw that fight. Bruna Brasil looked absolutely awful in that fight. Like, she looked like she had no understanding of range. She was just letting Denise Gomez walk into range and attack her and land big shots. And she wasn't really able to do anything about it. Like, Denise Gomez landed the better shots in round 1, backed her up against a cage, ended up getting a takedown at one point, I believe, as well. Maybe got reversed in one moment, and then Bruna Brasil ended up with some control time, and there were some moments against a cage, and Denise Gomez was just being a little bit busier in those positions. And then round 2, she just walked down Bruna Brasil and beat her up, and Bruna Brasil was stumbling over herself trying to move backwards and get range, and had no jab, no tip, nothing to try and keep range against Denise Gomez. And Denise Gomez walked her down and beat her up and finished her in round 2. Big drop in punch, knocked her down, and then finished her off on the ground afterwards. Really good job by Denise Gomez. Bruna Brasil, after a great performance on the Contender Series, and looking like a great strawweight prospect in the UFC, all of a sudden, turns out, can't fight whatsoever. Only in women's MMA. We move on. Daniel Zellhuber versus Lando Vannata. Very competitive matchup, but the right decision was given, in my opinion. But very close. There is an argument. No joke. There's an argument for Daniel Zellhuber to win the fight. But there's an argument for Lando Vannata to get a draw. I thought round 1 was a 10-8 round. Only one judge gave it a 10-8 round. Shout out to Saudi Amato for good judging. No idea why I shouldn't have to say that. But Zellhuber rocked Lando in round 1 with a big shot, wobbled him for a second with a straight right hand, dropped him in round 1 badly, and then landed, I want to say, like 30 significant strikes of ground and pound on him as well. Like over and over and over again, to where I thought the referee was going to step in for a moment, and then Lando worked out of it, and then more big shots from Daniel Zellhuber. I mean, it shows the kind of reaction referees have when lightweights are fighting compared to light heavyweights, because Cutelaba, Boser, Lando, Vannata versus Zellhuber, it shows the power difference and how that looks to a referee, because he let Vannata take a lot more shots than he let Tanner Boser take. Round 2 was Vannata's round, though. I thought Vannata won round 2, had good moments, landed really good shots on the feet. Looked like he stunned Zellhuber for a moment. Not rocked him, but like caught him and he acknowledged the big shot. So I was confused, that one judge had it 30-27 to Zellhuber, but Zellhuber minorly edged the third round, in my opinion, just about by doing a little bit more. Nothing too impressive, though, but he did almost blow himself out in the first round going for that finish, so to still see him keep up the pace in the later rounds was good to see, but yeah, good win from Daniel Zellhuber. I said he would win, and he got the job done. I'm 3-1 on the card so far. We move on up the card. Gillian Robertson versus Piera Rodriguez. I was going to pick Piera Rodriguez. My brain told me that Piera Rodriguez would win, but the coin flip spoke. And I went with the coin. And I went with Gillian Robertson. So I'm using the coin from now on for every women's MMA fight. You heard it here first. An effective predicting strategy for women's MMA. Gillian Robertson, very impressive performance. Got some weird moments on the feet in round 1. A little bit worrying for her in round 1. She was getting struck up a little bit on the feet. Still not the best on the feet. But eventually got the takedown, which was very good from her. And she got into half guard and was landing some total strikes. Not doing too much on top in round 1 in terms of taking mount or getting the back or anything that she did in round 2. But in round 1, she had a decent round. Won the first round by being on top and doing more total strikes and keeping it reasonably iffy on the feet between the two of them. And in round 2, here's where the controversy is. She gets taken down immediately, Piera Rodriguez. Gillian Robertson gets the takedown at the start of the round, gets mount, lands big elbows, gets the side position, lands more big shots, threatens a couple arm triangle attempts. I believe at one point Piera Rodriguez went for a Kimura, and then very wisely Gillian Robertson went for the Kimura as well. If you're on bottom, do not go for a Kimura. You know what I mean? It's such a risky move. Gamrot did this against Stevens. Stevens went for a Kimura on bottom, and by doing the Kimura grip, you're giving up your own arm for the Kimura, and the other person's on top of you. They've got gravity advantage. Simple as that. So they're going to be able to scramble if they know how and get the Kimura on you instead and have a much better time getting leverage on it. So, because you're working against gravity, they're working with it in that position. So, Gillian Robertson, after seeing Piera go for the Kimura, went for a Kimura of her own, let go of it. I was thinking maybe she would pull the armbar then, but she didn't quite do it. Eventually, she did pull the armbar, though, later on, after getting mount again and landing big shots. I understand the controversy here, but she did look like she tapped very clearly on the leg once. I know you're supposed to tap multiple times, but she can't be angry. She weren't escaping. She weren't doing anything to escape. That's what I kind of look for, right? If you want to watch like a good person trying to escape an armbar, but eventually succumbing to it, Ray Borg versus Demetrius Johnson. A lot of people talk about the fact that Demetrius Johnson had a great submission, and he really did. It was an amazing submission through Ray Borg into an armbar with a slam. Amazing stuff from Demetrius Johnson. But Ray Borg, the entire time he was in it before tapping, was so toughly fighting out of that position. Even though he was locked in and he couldn't escape, he showed so much grit to try and escape that position and wouldn't tap, rolled all the way over, tried to create weird angles to try and get out of the position. Piera Rodriguez just laid on her back and let the arm get basically snapped, or soon to be snapped, tapped once and then acted like, why did you stop it? Like, I'm not too angry about that, to be honest with you. Even if it's not an official tap, I think she tried to make it look like one, knowing she'd lost anyway, and then complain it wasn't really one. Like, it was a bit weird from her. She was a bit of a salty loser about it, but she weren't going to win. Gillian Robertson gets it done. Very sexually attractive as well. Let's get her on the Canadian MMA card in Canada, UFC 289. We move on up the card to another fight. Zak Cummings versus Ed Herman. I went with Zak Cummings winning this one. I just thought he had way better stand-up than Ed Herman at this point in either of their careers. And he proved that. Ed Herman was tough. And he stayed in the fight and he landed shots here and there, but it was all Zak Cummings, really, wasn't it? Just schooling him on the feet as the fight went on. I'm surprised the numbers look as close as they do, because I thought that Zak Cummings was easily doubling Ed Herman, because Herman didn't seem to be landing good shots. You know what I mean? Maybe he was glancing blows here and there off the shoulders and stuff, but Zak Cummings was landing all of the good shots, like 3-1. And, yeah, just pieced up Ed Herman. Dropped him immediately in the first. Ed Herman survived. Couple of up kicks landed from Ed Herman as well. 2 of them in the fight. Eventually got a point taken away. Round 2, Zak Cummings started going to the legs, to the body with some kicks. Dropped Ed Herman again in round 2. Round 3, I think with like a left hook he landed. Round 3, another great moment from Zak Cummings. Chopping the legs, going to the body with kicks, landing big shots upstairs with the punches. Eventually hurting Ed Herman quite badly after another up kick landed, which got the point taken away. Eventually hurting Ed Herman badly, finishing him off against the cage and getting a brutal TKO. And then one of the most wholesome moments in MMA happened. Double retirement. I kind of saw it coming from Ed Herman for sure. But Zak Cummings, I was like, maybe he might continue, get paid a little bit more. I heard Dana paid out both of them. Really wholesome moment. Both guys retired. Both guys had a moment in the cage where both of their gloves were down on the canvas. And yeah, it was just a cool, wholesome moment in MMA. So good for the pair of them. Got a ton of views on Instagram for it as well. And I hear Dana gave both of them a little bonus before they left. So good for them. We move on. Up the card to another fight. Brandon Royval versus Matheus Nicolau. Good job by Brandon Royval. Great knee to the face. Finished off Nicolau. Landed a bunch of shots afterwards. I thought Nicolau had this one in the bag. And I do believe if they played it a couple more times out of 10, he would win the majority of the time. But Royval timed that knee perfectly right up the middle. I like the way Nicolau fights. A lot of people don't. I just think he's such a tactician out there, but didn't see that shot coming. You know what I mean? Royval has that advantage to throw those knees, and he landed one against Kai Kara-France in their fight as well. But he has that advantage in fights with those knees because he's so much taller than the other flyweights. So good for him. He got the job done. Impressive win from him. KO in the first round. Got a performance bonus as well. He's on a 3-fight winning streak now in the division. So yeah, I think he said it also. He's the title backup for 290 as well. So yeah, I don't know if he should get that position. To be honest with you, I'd rather him not get a title shot next because that was on the prelims. That's the problem I have with it, man. That should have been on the main card. Big knee to the face, TKO, on the main card, feature fight, co-main event position. If that's a title elimination bout, why is it on the prelims? That annoys me. I know he's beaten Kai Kara-France already, but what I would do is, if Kara-France beats Amir Albazi in June or May or whenever he's fighting him, I would then do Kai Kara-France versus Brandon Royval in a rematch on a good position on a fight night card at least. Co-main, feature fight, something along those lines. Get people to see who the next title fighter is. It's so annoying when they do that. I mean, our Cutelaba gets the feature fight position. We got to have Guida on the main card. They're not fighting for anything. Put them on the prelims. Get the fan favourites on the prelims. Not Cutelaba, but get Clay Guida on the prelims. People will tune in for him if they're a big fan of him. Get the real important fights on the main card, even if they aren't the biggest of names. And people know of them, so they aren't small names. We move on to another fight up the card, which was, give me a secondre here, Bill Algeo versus TJ Brown. Or we'll talk about the post-fight interview as well. Bill Algeo had a tough first round. I thought he lost the first round because he got rocked a few times, and it seemed like his timing was off. TJ Brown kept stinging him with jabs, lead hooks, right hands as well, and it seems like Bill Algeo was just like, God, man, my timing's a bit off here. Went for a couple leg kicks, got a takedown at one point in round 1, but then ended up on bottom from that, and TJ Brown ended up on top and having a decent moment, but then Bill Algeo got back up. There was just a weird moment in the first round where Bill Algeo couldn't quite find his range, it seemed. You know, he's backing up quite a bit, doing a bit of the look and stuff and mockery and stuff like that, but he got his nose cut, bleeding from the nose, landing good leg kicks, good body shots, but TJ Brown was landing all the better shots on the feet with the hands. But the problem TJ Brown was doing was he's so short and has a shorter reach. He was closing the distance a lot with his head first. Volkanovski does this quite a bit, or used to, before he adjusted his game and became a little bit better, but he still did it against Makhachev. TJ Brown started doing that too much, and Bill Algeo didn't need to see that too many times before making the adjustment. Landed the elbow on the way in. Mark Munoz versus Chris Weidman style. Dropped him with the elbow as he came in. Hurt him badly. Latched up the neck and finished off the job in round 2. Great performance by Bill Algeo. Got a performance bonus as well for his job. And had a great post-fight speech. I thought he was going to be nice. I literally said, why is he retiring right now? Because I saw him taking off the gloves. Oh my God, another retirement? I was saying, no way. And then he's like, psych, I ain't retiring in this dump. You know what I mean? I'd never retire in Kansas. Like, and then he said something about Uber Eats, driving, Bud Light drinking, all this type of promo that he cut on Kansas City where he just trashed the place. Apparently there's a beef. I don't know where he's from, but I have heard there is a beef. I'm just going to look it up right now. I think he's from Tennessee or something like that. I'll have to check. No, he's from Pennsylvania. I don't know if there's someone in my chat said that yeah. Someone in my chat said that he's there's a beef between his state where he lives and the state of Kansas. So I don't know. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. So that's why he trashed him. But good post-fight interview. Colby Covington vibes, but a little bit clearer delivered without the stuttering. So good job, Bill Algeo. Always a fan favorite. Always a favorite to watch, in my opinion. Very fun fights all the time. That got fight of the night, apparently. We move on. Up the card, Rafa Garcia versus Clay Guida. I went with Rafa Garcia. No-brainer here. He outstruck Clay Guida every single round. Landed the better shots. Clay Guida just did a bunch of smiling, grinning, moving his head around like this the whole time. You know what I mean? Just throwing terrible shots with no impact whatsoever. Like, legend of the game, but good job by Rafa Garcia. This was his fight to win, you know. His nickname is Gifted. They gifted him this fight. Like, hey, dude, beat Clay Guida for us, please. You know what I mean? Like, get yourself a good win here and get one over, because I think he should have finished it, to be honest with you. He really should have finished this. But Clay Guida is tough. Showed a good chin in certain moments after getting hit by really good shots. So good job by Rafa Garcia. Yeah, post-fight interview. They were very nice to each other. Rafa won. But Clay Guida tricked them by taking off his gloves to where DC was like, oh, he's taking off his gloves. Is he retiring? Another retirement? Right, I've got to go up to him and get an interview out of him. It's Clay Guida. He's retiring. I'm not going to let this slide. I don't think he would have interviewed Clay Guida otherwise. And then you could see DC's face like, okay, thank you for the opponent. Happy birthday to his mum. He's not retiring. All right, see you later. And just cut off the interview completely. Like, you baited me into this. I wasn't even wanting to speak to you unless you were retiring. So maybe it'll be like the boy who cried wolf, and this could affect his eventual retirement anyway. But good job to Rafa Garcia. We move on. Up the card, Pedro Munoz versus Chris Gutierrez. To be fair, close fight. Very close fight. I had it 29-28 either way. But every round, other than round 1, of course, can go either way. You know what I mean? Round 2 and 3 could go either way. Gutierrez landed more, but I think Munoz landed better and clearer out of the two of them. It just seemed like after getting dropped in round 1, Gutierrez didn't really have anything anymore. You know what I mean? Like, he still maybe went tit for tat with Munoz, which is impressive, don't get me wrong, but he got dropped in round 1, and it was like he was in a defensive mindset the entire time. No grit, no trying to grit down and go in the clinch and land shots in the pocket or anything like that. Just very, don't get hit, tap, tap, don't get hit, tap, tap, tap. Didn't really go for anything big to secure himself the win. So, yeah, Pedro Munoz got the job done, dropped him in round 1 with a big left hand. I was going to originally pick Munoz. I shouldn't have switched, but yeah, Chris Gutierrez just didn't really have much after getting dropped. Maybe if he didn't get dropped, he would have had a better performance, who knows, but he looked very defeatist after getting hit with that left hand, just trying not to get hit by another big shot again. So, good job, Pedro Munoz. Amazing performance from him. He turns back the clock and gets a big win against a prospect. We move on. Up the card, Jan Cutelaba versus Tanner Boser. I initially disagreed with the stoppage, but when you realize that the only reason Boser was even recovering from that position was because he was cage grabbing the whole time, I get the stoppage. You know what I mean? Like, they're like heavyweights. He's eating shot after shot on the chin. Good job, Jan Cutelaba. No one likes giving him credit because he's, you know, he loses. You know what I mean? But he's had some good wins in his career. He's very hit and miss, but he was on a 3-fight losing streak. But he's beaten Devin Clark, which is a good light heavyweight win. Khalil Roundtree Jr., he decimated him. Destroyed him in a round. Absolutely annihilated him. He beat Gadziomad Antigulov. He almost beat... What's his name? Can't remember his name. He almost beat Glover Teixeira for a moment. He was destroying Glover early on before Glover made a comeback and got the sub over him. And then he had that weird one against Ankalaev. He's had a weird career where he's gone around. Draw with Jacoby, who's no joke, but is a joke, and I'll get to that in a second. But yeah, he's just been a bit of a loose cannon. He loses fights for himself. You know what I mean? He could easily win, and he makes a mistake and loses a fight for himself. But this time against Boser, man, heavyweights just suck. Can't strike, can't grapple. And the light heavyweight grappling took over, got the takedown after landing big shots and dropping Boser on the feet, and then just beat him up on the ground and got the finish against the cage. Yeah, I didn't agree with the stoppage originally, but when you look at the fact that Boser was only in the fight because he was cage grabbing his way up, I can see why the referee jumped in. So yeah, we move on to another moment. Good performance by Jan Cutelaba. Azamat Murzakanov versus Dustin Jacoby. So annoyed. I picked Jacoby. I thought he would have a really good performance here. He was having a decent performance. Outside of getting dropped in rounds 1 and 2, he was staying in there with Azamat Murzakanov. Landing shots back and forth. Murzakanov was landing the better shots, of course. Eventually dropping Jacoby at the end of round 1. Dropping him at the end of round 2. And they only gave him one knockdown, which is crazy. But yeah, he won the first 2 rounds very clearly. Great punches. His cardio really dipped. Massively dipped, and it always does. He does slow down in fights because he's a fat middleweight at the end of the day, and he's an old man. Jacoby, with a Murzakanov in front of him, who is clearly breaking to the striking, and he's teeing off on Murzakanov in the 3rd round, landing really good shots, starting to get his range, starting to find momentum. Murzakanov's literally panic wrestling, and he doesn't normally wrestle, so you know he's in trouble, and he wants this fight over and done with. He's panic wrestling against Jacoby. Jacoby's stuffing all of the takedowns, and then for some reason, he holds him up against a cage for the last 2.5 minutes of the round. Gassed out opponent in front of you, you're down 2 rounds, you need a finish right now, desperately, you know you're down 2 rounds, you got dropped individually in both of those rounds, and you weren't arguably winning them outside of those moments either, so you know you need it. It's obvious. And he holds him up against a cage for 2.5 minutes at the end of round 3 and forces that position. Murzakanov must have been like, thank God. I thought I was about to lose for a second there, but this idiot is holding me up against a cage. Jacoby, separate and throw and finish this guy. I'm not beyond the idea that this was rigged. Like, how can you be that lowest fight? That's like Sukumtar O'Malley stuff. One of the lowest fight IQ moments I've ever seen in the sport. And then after the fight was over, he holds his hands up like he's won the 1st or 2nd round after getting dropped in both. I couldn't believe it. And it sucks because you shouldn't have even been in this position. He beat Khalil Roundtree, so it is what it is. Oh well, I thought Jacoby would win, but I didn't account for his extra chromosome. We move on. Up the card, Edson Barboza versus Billy Quarantillo. Barboza's back. Cheated with a cage grab, I'll be honest. Cheated with a cage grab, and it kept him up on the feet. But hey, it's Barboza, let him do it. Kind of, right? It's weird that that's how it is, but let him cheat. He's Barboza. He stopped a takedown where he was going to end up on the ground, and he cage grabbed his way back up and stopped it. So, not good. The referee should have taken a point or given position. Who knows? Billy Quarantillo kept going for the takedown, and eventually, as he looked to level change after a right hand at the end of round 2, or the end of round 1, sorry, the very end of round 1. Was it the very end of round? No, it was halfway through the round. He went for the right hand, level changed, or maybe not even level changed, but just lowered his stance to feint it and maybe try and throw again. He got clipped with a big knee to the face from Edson Barboza. Great timing. And I thought, oh my God, this ain't looking good for Edson. He's got to stuff takedowns. He's constantly trying to get himself off the back of the cage. He's getting hit with shots. He's getting walked down. He's not getting his kicks off. Boom. Knee to the face from Edson Barboza. Billy Quarantillo goes out cold for a second, face first against the cage. And that's probably it for Billy Quarantillo. Got chinned badly. He's not a young guy himself. So yeah, really good job by Edson Barboza. I'd love to see him get a fight like Sadiq Youssef or Calvin Kattar. One of those types of matchups that's going to be fun for him. Really good performance by Edson Barboza. Proved me wrong. I thought Quarantillo was going to break him. But I'm glad it didn't happen because that would have been sad to see. We move on to the main event, Holloway versus Allen. I've already broken this down on a separate video, but good performance by Holloway. Really good performance. He made adjustments in the fight by going to the body with kicks to the body and knees to the body and stuff like that. And yeah, won the first round clear. Allen looked like he was like, okay, main event. He looked very nervous on the walkout. He was being booed and he didn't really understand it. And it was like a weird moment for him. He looked very nervous. And I think the first round he was very jittery. And Holloway was like, when is this guy going to go for me? He's had a fast start in his last two, so I'll just pick at him and not really commit to much. First round, very slow. Holloway won the first round. Round two, Allen won. Big left hands, big shots over the top. Early on, at least. Holloway did have some good moments back, but the clear, clean shots of the round went to Arnold Allen. And then round 3 and 4, Holloway made the adjustment. Allen was picking his hands up higher to protect from the punches of Holloway. And Holloway couldn't really reach low enough to go to the body with his hands because Allen was looking to counter on him. So Holloway started throwing kicks to the body. Really, really nasty kicks to the body. Really good adjustment from him, landing right on the ribs of Arnold Allen. And in round 5, Allen had a really good round, really solid round, was going after Holloway in some moments, really pushing him and trying to make a fight happen. And all the judges gave that round to Arnold Allen, but he got dropped at the end. He got dropped at the end of round 5, and that's a fact. He was doing good. He rocked Holloway, not rocked, but he cracked Holloway with an elbow at the end of the round, landed some really good shots, was going after Holloway like, yeah, come on, got clipped with a left hand, wobbled badly, and then screamed again and started going for more swings, and then got dropped. He straight up got dropped with a left hand, and he got up at the end, and that's the only... If that wasn't the end of the round... he'd be in real trouble there. Real trouble against Holloway and probably would have ended up getting finished. So, yeah, obviously if it wasn't the end of the round, he probably wouldn't have gone for it like that. But still, he got dropped at the end of the round. No knockdowns were given on the stats whatsoever in the fight. I watched him get dropped with a left hand behind the ear, and he just sort of face planted the canvas for a second and then popped back up. So, yeah, weird. But, yeah, I had Holloway 4-1. Ariel Hawani had Arnold Allen winning because he's dumb. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I went 9-5 on the card and another main event correct. I'm clawing it back. I was 1-7 to start the year. I think I'm 4-8. I'm making up the difference. Toodle pip. See you later. Goodbye.